Crossfade between two videos using ffmpeg. I've been trying to achieve a crossfade transition between two video clips using ffmpeg, but have failed so far. I'm new to ffmpeg and am mostly relying on tweaking what I can find in the documentation and existing examples online. From what I read so far, using either the blend or overlay filter should help in achieving what I'm after, but I can't figure out the command line details to get it to work. The fade and concat filters are great for fade out of video 1, fade into video 2 and concat the two into one clip type transitions, but I'd appreciate help in getting a command to transition from video 1 to video 2 without any going to black in between. I couldn't find any examples for exactly this problem anywhere. Maybe I'm looking for the wrong keywords. More superficially, my videos are MP4S, H264 video, no sound. In case that matters, each is 5 seconds long and I'm after a transition from approximately 4.5s of video 1 to 0.5s of video 2. Similar to what this tutorial does using MLT and frames, see 225 for an example fade, though I'm looking for a way to do this just in ffmpeg without calling any other progs. This URL. Any pointers or maybe a command line to get a fade like this would be much appreciated. Thanks very much.
I suggest to do that way. Create black background with the same duration and resolution as output video should be. Add alpha channel to each video. Add fade to alpha effect to each video. Use overlay on each video with black background. So the command for adding crossfade to two video, 5 seconds, each should be. This will fade out first video to alpha at the 4th second, SD equals 4, with a duration of 1 second, D equals 1, fade in the second one at the 0th second, SD equals 0, with a duration of 1 second, D equals 1, and move its display time forward to 4 seconds, plus 4/TB. Then we just cut 9 seconds of black color, scale it to output video size and overlay the stuff. Hope it helps.
ffmpeg now has a crossfade filter, released in version 4.3. And similarly, there's an audio version.
ffmpeg concat is the easiest way to accomplish what you want and allows you to use a bunch of sexy OpenGL transitions, with the default being crossfade. ffmpeg GL transition is a custom ffmpeg filter which allows you to use GLSL to smoothly transition between two video streams. This filter is significantly easier to use and customize than the alternatives listed here. This filter supports a large list of transition types, with the default being crossfade.
Orange Dog is right that native crossfades were recently introduced to ffmpeg, version 4.3.2, released on 8th of June 2020, via the fade filter. However, his answer is incomplete and doesn't explain how the filter works or take into account how complex it can be. Using the fade filter. The offset parameter is the point at the first input, in seconds, that you want the transition to start, and the duration parameter is how long, in seconds, you want the transition to take before it has finished transitioning to the second input. The most common use of a crossfade is to fade from the very end of your first input to the beginning of your second one. However, This is trickier to do with fade than it first seems. If the offset parameter is set too low, it will fade too early, and take a part of the end of the first input with it. If the offset is set too high, more than video 1 duration plus fade duration, the crossfade will fail to be applied at all because the fade filter considers this invalid. I'm guessing because it disregards the second input entirely in its calculations. This means that the best that can be done with this fade filter is to truncate as little as possible from the end of the first input, which typically means only a lost second or two of video at the end. This might be fine for your needs, in which case this fade filter will be perfect for you. If it isn't, then skip ahead to the end to use the older crossfade solution which, despite being a little more complicated to set up, does include the second input in its calculations, resulting in a crossfade that completely preserves the video streams of both inputs. To begin, get the duration in seconds of your first input. Then get an upper limit value by doing video 1 duration, fade duration. This upper limit is the highest offset value you can set. Any higher and this fade filter will fail to apply the crossfade. I recommend starting with it as the initial value and gradually lowering it until you're satisfied with the end result. For example, where the duration of your first input is 170.500 seconds, and you want the crossfade to last for 2 seconds, the upper limit value will be 168.500. If the result of that command is a crossfade in which the first input stream abruptly ends before the crossfade's transition does, then gradually lower the offset value by a second each time until the transition looks as smooth as possible. When running these experimental runs, you can add the preset ultrafast option to speed up encoding time. Just remember to run the final encode without it to maximize compression for your final output file. Using the transition parameter, fade also allows you to make use of crossfade transitions other than the default fade. This example uses the pixelized transition. The full list of available transitions can be found on the ffmpeg wiki. If your sources don't have the same time bases and frame rates, note that any of the above commands may fail with one of the following errors. First input link main time base, 1500, do not match the corresponding second input link's fade time base, 30,000. First input link main frame rate, 31, do not match the corresponding second input link's fade frame rate, 30,000 1001. These errors mean your inputs have differing time bases and frame rates respectively, which is highly likely when dealing with inputs from different sources. In these cases you will need the command below instead. For reasons that are still confusing to me since everything is being re-encoded anyway, this fade filter requires that the TBN and frame rate of each input be the same, similar to how the concat demuxer requires the TBN, resolution, codec and other attributes be the same. If this is the case for you and you get one of the above errors, you'll need to set a common TBN and frame rate for each of your video streams before applying the fade filter to them. As far as I'm aware, there's no equivalent to the of constant for frame rates, so replace 31 above with an output frame rate that is suitable to you. 31, which is ffmpeg notation for 30 FPS, is probably a safe bet, but I'm no expert on frame rates and their implications. using a traditional crossfade. If, like me, you weren't completely happy with the results of this fade filter, you can do a crossfade the old way instead. This is a modified version of Jen's answer here, and essentially works similarly to Tka's answer except that it's less complicated and doesn't contain any filters that are irrelevant to the actual crossfade. It can essentially be thought of as a middle ground between the simplicity of this fade filter and the complexity of Tka's solution. Replace WXH with your video's resolution. Replace video 1 plus video 2 fade with the result of the sum, what you get by adding the first input's length in seconds to the second input's length in seconds, minus the fade duration. Use probe v error show underscore entries format equals duration of default equals no print underscore wrappers equals 1 column no key equals 1 input dot mp4 to get the duration of each input. Finally, replace each instance of video 1 length and video 2 length with their values, and fader duration and audio fader duration with what you'd like them to be. So if I wanted to crossfade between two videos that are 1920 by 1080, with the first input having a length of 170.300 seconds and the second a length of 9 seconds, and I want a crossfade of 2 seconds between them with an audio crossfade of 4 seconds, my command would look like this.
If you want to support the channel, please consider subscribing.